think we were going to do this again. I thought I had said everything I could say about Brittney Griner, but I just can't ignore the fake sympathy. I cannot ignore the fake outrage. I cannot ignore the intentional twisting of this case into something that it's not. Earlier this morning, Brittney Griner pleaded guilty to drug charges in Russia. She's facing the possibility of spending the next 10 or so years of her life in a Russian prison. During her statement to the judge this morning, Brittney Griner pleaded her case by saying, "I didn't mean to break the law." One of her lawyers, they used the excuse she was packing her bags in a hurry that morning. She didn't mean to pack the vape cartridges. Please give her leniency. I didn't mean to break the law. Yeah, you and every other criminal. I was reading an article earlier that claimed Brittney Griner was receiving unfair treatment. This is not right. White people living in Russia have been convicted of this same charge and they were only given probation. Yeah, this is true, but it has nothing to do with race. The key in that statement is white people living in Russia, Russian citizens. It is a hell of a lot easier for the Russian government to monitor criminals that are actually living in the country. They put someone on probation. If it's anything like the American system, they're required to report once a month for drug testing. They require them to go through programs. How in the hell are they going to enforce that punishment on Brittney Griner if she comes back home to America? We're going to put you on probation. Your punishment is you get to go back home and get reacquainted with your cucumber. The pressure is increasing on Joe Biden to find a way to get Lady Liberty back to America. They want to bring her back so she can continue to bitch and complain about mythical oppression and mythical racism. Can you imagine how useful Brittney Griner would be to the woke movement right now? Russia's already public enemy number one. Deacons at Woke United Methodist, they could have Brittney Griner compare living conditions inside the Russian prison to living conditions for a gay black birthing person living in America. They could even have Bomani Jones do the first interview. Come here, Britt, sit on Bobo's lap, tell him all about Russia. To be honest, Bobo, the transition wasn't too difficult. I have been oppressed in America for 30 years. The only thing that sucked about jail in Russia, they didn't have adequate cucumbers for a birthing person of my size. For the better part of 2 months, Cherelle Griner, wife of Brittney Griner, has been pushing for a conversation with Joe Biden. And for the better part of 2 months, the response from the Biden administration's been, fuck off. Tuesday, Cherelle Griner, she was on CBS This Morning with Gayle King, and she talked about the lack of motivation, the lack of action from the Biden administration to bring what the woke are now calling BG back home. I guess BG stands for Brittney Griner, or perhaps they dropped the L and the T from LGBT when describing her sexual fetishes. Here is what Cherelle Griner had to say. Roll the film.
Respectfully, we're over 140 days at this point. That does not work. And so I will not be quiet anymore. I will find that balance of, harm versus help in pushing our government to do everything that's possible, because being quiet, they are not moving. They are not doing anything. And so my wife is struggling, and we have to help her.
Cherelle, a lot of us feel the same way that you do. We all want her home sooner rather than later. Before you go, have you heard from the White House since the letter was delivered to President Biden? In her letter, she says the first time she voted was in 2020, and that vote was for President Biden. Have you heard from him?
I still have not heard from him, and honestly, it's very disheartening.
Just an FYI, Joe Biden ended up reaching out to Cherelle Griner after this interview. He assured her, "We are doing everything we can to bring this symbol of woke freedom back home to be oppressed." I know statements from Joe Biden can be difficult to understand, so let me translate it for you. What he means by doing everything we can is, we are pretending to care, but when I get off this call, I'm going to go get ice cream and take a nap. Let me also dispel this myth that's been floating around the media. It is rare that I come to the defense of Joe Biden. The handful of people that want Brittney Griner back home, they keep complaining that Joe Biden's not doing anything to bring her back. And the reason he's not doing anything is because he can't. The Russians are refusing to negotiate. The way it works in Russia, they don't enter negotiations for prisoner releases, prisoner exchanges until the trial is over. Trevor Reed is a former Marine who was arrested in Russia on what his family claims were bogus assault charges. Now, unlike Brittney Griner, there's a strong possibility that Trevor Reed didn't break the law. He's not what normal people would consider a criminal, or what the woke like to call BLM supporters. Trevor Reed was freed in April via prisoner swap, 2 years after his arrest. Now, this is a former member of the military. This is someone who fought for his country instead of disrespecting his country. This is someone who sacrificed his life to protect your freedom instead of sacrificing his knees to protest mythical racism. It took over 2 years to get someone who deserved to come home back to America. So even if the Russians decide to release Brittney Griner, it ain't happening anytime soon. The mainstream media coverage of Brittney Griner, it's about as disgusting as the face of Rachel Levine. The media is doing what they do best. They are using this situation to further the myth of American racism and homophobia. Headline at USA Today: Brittney Griner deserves our support. Are you fucking out of your mind? Someone please explain to me, give me one reason why Brittney Griner deserves our support. USA Today claims the arrest of Brittney Griner has incited outright hostility with the American public. What? Remember when I told you guys the other day the media keeps claiming that there's this groundswell of public support to bring Lady Liberty back home? Then I showed you the picture of their protest outside the Russian consulate in New York City where 7 or so paid actors were protesting for her release. You remember that? Well, the other night, the Phoenix Fucks, they held a public rally for Brittney Griner at the local WNBA dump in Phoenix. They invited all her fans to come show their support. Now you have to remember, this is Brittney Griner's home dump. It was free to attend this rally. If she's gonna receive public support, you would figure she would be supported the most at home. How many people showed up to the rally? According to the Associated Press, a few hundred. Now, this is WNBA stats we're talking about here. WNBA teams, they'll draw 3,000 fans to an 18,000 seat arena, and they call it a sellout. I contacted Mina Kimes, our resident math expert here on the channel. She was able to decipher the WNBA's spin on these numbers and give me the real number. Now, if you included the rats, the possums, the raccoons, the birds flying around the dump, there were a few hundred things capable of breathing at the rally. But if you count actual people, there were only a handful. This is what the media is calling huge public support. But just like everything else the media covers, they are once again talking out of both sides of their ass. One day, Brittney Griner is publicly supported. The next day, the media is complaining that she's not getting enough public support. Both USA Today and Deadspin blasted the American public and certain segments of the media for their lack of support for Brittney Griner. USA Today even stole a soundbite from Joy Reid and claimed Brittney Griner wasn't receiving enough attention because she wasn't a missing white woman. Yeah. They pulled the missing white woman syndrome card. Missing white woman syndrome. This is some bullshit theory that states Americans only care about missing white women, when the truth is, both the media and your average American only cares when the story is entertaining. That's the harsh reality of it. There are thousands of missing white women right now in America. Only 1, maybe 2 receive mainstream attention, and it's the 1 or 2 with the most entertaining story. Both USA Today and Deadspin also claim Brittney Griner is not supported because she is gender non-conforming. What the fuck is gender non-conforming? During Woke Christmas last month, I became highly educated in alphabet sex. I learned things I never knew about. I learned how a rake and a shovel practice the butt bongo. I learned that men can have babies. I learned about questioning Quentin, who questions whether he's a man or a drill bit. I learned about Tran, Dan, and Fran and how they had a kid named Stan. I learned about the non-binary. I learned about the 53 different genders that kids get to select in kindergarten. Never once in all my studies did I come across gender non-conforming. When Deadspin mentioned this as the reason Brittney Griner wasn't receiving public support, I had to look it up. I contacted Rex Chapman, who is an expert in gender studies. Rex, he was born a boy who became a genderqueer nerd in adulthood. Rexy explained to me, gender nonconforming means a birthing person doesn't conform to societal norms and expectations that are deemed appropriate for their gender. Oh, it's starting to make sense now. I've been telling you guys for, I don't know, a couple of years, women in the WNBA want so badly to be men. That's what Rex Chapman explained to me earlier. Brittney Griner considers herself gender non-conforming because she was born a woman and wants to be a man. I will once again explain why the American public is largely silent regarding Brittney Griner. It's not because she's black. According to the same media that claims she's not supported because she's black, the same media also claims if LeBron James were detained in Russia, he would have been home months ago. So it has nothing to do with skin color. It's not because she's gay or non-conforming to gender, whatever the fuck. It's not because she's a woman who wants to be called Bob instead of Brittney. There are two reasons Brittney Griner is not being supported. One, no one gives a fuck about the WNBA. Like I said before, the silence is more of an indictment on the WNBA than Brittney Griner. Until I started talking about this, my mom didn't even know the WNBA existed. I imagine most of your moms didn't either. But two, the people who do know about Brittney Griner, they are not willing to support her. They're not willing to support her because they feel she deserves to sit in Russia. And they feel that way because she spent years calling them racist and disrespecting them. It's that simple. But let me know what you think. Brittney Griner pleads guilty, will likely spend the next few years at minimum in prison. Does she deserve public support? Better yet, you tell me. You tell me why Brittney Griner is not receiving public support. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.